Hey everyone, my name is Dave and welcome to the NTD Racing Speed Shop. Behind me are all the parts for Lefty, which is our budget trophy truck is what we're calling it. And right now we're kind of hung up on getting a pitman arm removed. We don't have a puller big enough. I'm going to show you that, but first let me show you what we got going on with Lefty and the build right now, where we're at and how this puller is going to get us over the hump and let us continue on with this build. Let's go ahead and get to the walk around. All right, today's walk around is going to start on the back of the truck, and you can kind of see how everything is going together, where our spare tires are going to go. We're going to have a 60-gallon fuel tank right here. The tubes, how did I get the tubes cut? If you go back and watch in my playlist about Bentec, we cut all of these tubes at Bentec, and you can kind of see how they're all going together perfectly. They all basically just about snap together. In fact, if I find that while I'm building it, if there's a gap or something like that, it's probably because I have something else missing. So I can almost use the Bentec tubes for the dimensioning for everything. And I got like 5 videos on me doing that. Moving forward here, we kind of got the cockpit, and why is the front of the truck not on? Well, the front of the truck is kind of waiting for the suspension. So over here on the table, I have the front end of the truck, and this is what I'm going to weld on the front after I get suspension arms, upper and lower, built, just because it's so much easier to build on the table. But right now what we're working on is this whole slider assembly, which will come in the next video, for how we're going to do the steering. How do we do long travel suspension steering? I got a really cool solution for that. And it all kind of starts with this. This is the steering box out of a 2013 Chevy Silverado 2500 HT. They're heavy, but man, they're bulletproof. We've raced one in Honcho. Now we've been, I think, 7 races, and the steering has been totally awesome. It gives you power, and you really can't beat the price point. The problem, though, is that this pitman arm is massive. In fact, it's so big, I don't have a puller. I'm not sure where I'd get one that would pull this thing off. So what we're going to work on today is building a pitman arm puller. I'm going to show you exactly how I do all that using Fusion 360 and this bad mama jamma over here, the Langmuir Systems Crossfire XR, my go-to, my amazing table. I'll talk about that as we're going through it. But let's go ahead and get to the Fusion 360. All right, this is the part where I do a whole bunch of CAD, and it takes about 25 minutes. So if you want to see the entirety of this, it'll be at the end of this video. So I dropped the program into the Langmuir Systems Crossfire XR. It is an amazing machine. If you're looking at thinking, man, I could use something like that in my shop, I have a ton of videos that show you exactly how to use this machine. And if you use code NTD Racing at checkout, you save yourself $100. All right, first test. This thing is still crazy hot. I'm not very patient. I need to get this thing up. Let's see how it works. That piece there. This is that piece that goes in and just kind of doubles and kind of closes that loop. Actually, I guess is a huge washer, if you will. So bringing this thing down on there. Oh, it's gonna work. It's gonna work right now. Oh. All right, this thing is still carrying heat after some serious time. Let me show you what I had to do. You saw the first failure. What I ended up doing, and I'll show you, I'm gonna pull it out, since it was kind of bending the plate a little bit, and also this nut right here didn't let the thread, so I was running out of threads. So I ended up just kind of grinding that nut off. And I made another nut plate. You can kind of see this here. And this is it's the same size nut, but it's going to disperse the load and hopefully won't bend this thing. So I just kind of put the nut plate in there and then twist on this 5/8 inch bolt on there. Same thing. I'm going to go ahead and connect it up to the steering box or the pitman arm, the old nub that used to be a pitman arm. And then I'll start twisting this thing on there. There we go, and then hit it. You might say to yourself, gee, Dave, that sure came off a lot easier than we had expected. And I will tell you that I agree, because I took it off. I was testing, I didn't have the camera going and it popped right off. So it worked, there you go. You can check it out. You can kind of see some of those welds there. I'm a terrible MIG welder. You can kind of see this, a big blob of poo. I like these right here. I'm trying to stack diamonds. I don't know how strong it is, but obviously it held up to this test. So this is a good tool. I'll be using this in the future, especially as I pull Pitman arms off of this thing. So there you go. That's a Harbor Freight welder. I've been super pleased with it. It is now my go-to MIG welder over my Miller. All right, yellow shop rag for dramatic effect, but I think it looks pretty awesome. This is almost like an art piece. What is this? Can you figure out what this is? How many people would be able to figure out right off the bat what this is if they hadn't watched this video? So pretty cool. Love how this thing went together. All right, well, if you want to see some serious nerding out, then stay tuned for the next video where I'm working on steering geometry. And I'm putting like all my brain cells together on Fusion 360, and we're going to be cutting out some plates, which will become part of the steering and all the geometry for this thing. And I think it'd be pretty cool, especially if you're kind of looking at building a truck like this yourself. Hopefully you will tune in, subscribe, hit the like button. All that stuff definitely helps us out. We sure do appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Take care of yourself. All right, so here we go on Fusion 360, as we always do with the Linear Systems Crossfire XR. So we're going to basically do all of our two-dimensional drawings on this front pane right here with a Y and the X are this way. And the Z's coming out at us, and that's just because that's the way the plasma cutters cut. I went over here and selected Sketch, and then I have set up where, I'm going to show you here real quick. Let me see. First I want to select that pane. Now I'm actually drawing on that pane. And then as I go over here to create in rectangles, you see I made a center rectangle. I selected these three dots over here, and I made G, the letter G, the hotkey for a center rectangle. So when I say hotkey G, then that's what I mean, and I can kind of show you how you do that. There, you change the keyboard shortcuts, and it'll take you there, and you can name it whatever shortcut you want, whatever you want, but that just helps you kind of get to that quickly. So, and I'm going to do all my drawings off the center origin here, and that's just going to kind of make it easy to find the center for holes and all that kind of stuff. So first, let's go ahead and take a look at the Pitman arm. And I cheated a little bit. I drew some pictures up here, so I kind of already know the dimensions just because I was practicing. But so basically, we got to start pulling the dimensions off this thing for what we want to make. And what I'm going to do is I kind of found, as I use my calipers here, this thing comes out to about 3.14 inches wide. So I'm going to make the space that fits over this 3.5 inches wide. The hole that this thing's got to basically fit over to pull this thing off is about 6.23 inches. I'm going to just make it 1.7 to make sure I don't have a problem with that. The width between the Pitman arm and the box over here is greater than 1/2 inch. I'm using 1/4 inch plates. So I'm going to be able to double stack plates in there. I'll basically put one plate in this way with a U shape to go over that bolt, and another plate go in the opposite direction, such that there's less chance of that plate failing, because we're going to be putting just a ton of load on this. I'm going to be using a fine thread 5/8 inch bolt, which I'll be using to basically push against this thing to pull it out. And basically what I want this thing to be is just taller than this thing, so as it pulls it off, so it comes out to about 2.5 inches. I'm going to make it 3 inches tall, and then the bolt, I just measured that out. It's, you know, everything I'm making is 0.62. I'm going to make it 0.65 as far as that hole goes there, and I'll be welding this nut to the top of it. So all that's words, words, words. I kind of drew some of the dimensions up here, and we'll kind of go through it as we go on to Fusion 360. So again, I'm going to start with the first thing, which will just be these plates over here are the outside plates, basically the base plate and the top and the bottom of this thing. And since it's going to be, the insides of it are going to be, the space is going to be 3.5. There's going to be 1/4 inch plates on each side, which takes out to 4 inches. I'm going to put another 1/4 inch to give myself something to weld to and make a really effective weld on this thing. So 4.5 should do that. So I go over here, I hit hotkey G, I select the center, and I say 4.5. I'm gonna hit the tab key and 4.5, and that's the rectangle, the first one that I'm going to make. And let's just make this one the top one where we got the hole in the center. So again, since we went with this 0 point here for the X and Y axis, I can go back and hit hotkey C, which brings up circle. I can find that center really quickly, and then we said we wanted a 0.65 inches for that center hole, and then that's the whole part right there. That's the first one. Now I'm going to hit hotkey E for extrude. I'm going to select this thing that I'm extruding, and it's 1/4 inch plate, so I'm going to go 0.25 will be the size of that. There we go. So now here's the thing though, this part is kind of occupying my 0 points for that origin, and I want to kind of move it off of that so I can deal with it later. So I'm going to hit hotkey M, which is going to bring me up the options to move. I'm going to select this thing and I'm just going to kind of move it out of the way. There, I'm done with that piece. Now I'm going to go ahead and create another drawing. I'm going to create it right there in that same spot, and it's going to be the next piece. So I'm going to hit hotkey G. This one also will be 4.5 by 4.5, and then that hole in the center we said was 1.62. I'm going to make it 1.7. So we're going to say hotkey C, which is going to give me my circle again, and I'm going to say 1.7 inches is going to be the size of that. Now I want this thing to be able to slide over the thing that the piece. So what I basically got to do is I'm going to hit hotkey L for giving me a line. I'm going to select this point and I'm going to take it all the way up to the side over here, to the side of the box. And then I'm going to take this point right here, do the same thing, to the side of that box. And then what I'm going to do is just start cutting some lines, because I don't want this line there, I don't want that line, I don't want that line, and I don't want that line. So there's the piece that I want. So that looks good to me. I'm going to hit the hotkey E again, saying I want to extrude. I'm going to select the part that I want to extrude, and then I'm selected again, and say 0.25. Now here is something you always want to be concerned with. I talk about this just about every time I make a video, because it took me a while to figure it out. Is you got to figure out what the thing is going to do, what the operation is going to be. And if you look over here in the menu, it says it's going to make a new body. And you can I'm going to go over here and expand the bodies. And you see I have a body 1, which is this piece over here. But as soon as I hit OK, it's going to boom, and that makes a body 2. And I also, if you go over here, I've also got 2 sketches which account for those 2 sketches I just made. And I can turn, if I want to, I could turn the sketches on so I could see them both, or I could just turn them off, which I generally want to do. I don't want to be looking at those all the time. Sometimes I do want to use those. But what you want to be careful of is when you go and extrude, is that you don't cut when you think you're going to make a body, or you don't join when you think you're going to make a body. And then when you click OK, if you had join, it would just make it part of that one body. It wouldn't be 2 individual bodies. And that is a factor in some of the other things you want to do. When I build suspension parts, I want to be able to take them apart and lay them flat, because I'm going to basically put everything onto a plasma table. I'm going to put this thing right here. Boom. All right. There's that one. All right, let's go ahead and sketch the next one. This one is going to be hotkey G. I'm going to go, I want to sketch on that plane. Hotkey G. And this is basically going to be the same kind of thing, but this is that smaller piece that's going to slide inside there. So I want it to be 3.25 by 3.25 in the center circle. So hotkey C, I want that to be 1.7. And I'm going to do the same thing with the lines over here. Hotkey L brings up my lines. I'll select that point and go out to there. And I'm going to select that point, go out to there, and then I'm going to pick these scissors again and cut all these parts off that I don't want. Boom. There's that piece now. I'm going to say same thing, rinse, wash, repeat, extrude that piece, 0.25. It is indeed making a body. And then I'm going to go ahead and take this piece and move it over, move it over here. Get it out of the way. All right. Now, what do we need to do? We make the side wall pieces of this thing. So it looks like I need to make them 3.5 by 3 inches, and these are just going to be simple squares. So I'm going to say hotkey G. In this case, since they're just squares, I really don't, because I'm not going to put a hole in them or anything like that. Just I'm putting it, that doesn't really matter. 3 point, let me see, which way do I want this oriented? I want the long axis to be vertical, so 3, and I'll explain that later. Oh, not what I wanted to do. Control Z. I can hit hotkey R, which is just rectangle, and I can just draw a rectangle wherever I want it. So I want this piece to be 3 inches wide, and tab, and this one's going to be 3.5. And that's going to be the sides. I'm going to hit hotkey E for extrude. That thing, 0.25. I got that. I'm going to hit hotkey M for move. And I'm going to select the body. And this is going to be something a little different here. Is it gives me the option, if I don't start moving it right away, I have this thing down here that says create a copy. So all I want to do is create a copy. I'm going to pull it right. Nope, I don't want to do that. I want to pull it vertical. Nope, lateral. I want to go lateral. The reason I'm wavering back and forth is because I know which the piece of metal I've got to cut this out of, and I know that it'll fit on there right about there. So I'm just being careful to try to make sure I cover my piece of scrap metal I'll be cutting this whole thing out of. That's okay. And then now I can say hotkey M. I can select both of them, and then now I can go ahead, and I know they're going to be at the bottom when I cut this thing, so I'm going to put them right there. Okay. And now I got one more piece to make. A rectangle on that plane. Let me go back and Control Z, finish sketch. I'm going to go and make the sketch and make sure I selected the right plane. Or if in doubt, go back and do it over again, because then it'll be off plane and it'll make weird stuff when you try to cut it. Hotkey R for rectangle, and this is going to be 3 point. This is going to be 3.75 by 3 inches. All right. And let's just do the same thing again. Extrude 0.25. There's the piece. I got a whole bunch of bodies over here now. Enter. Now I got a 6 body. And these are all the pieces. Now it's time to nest these things on the thing that I want to cut. So what's kind of weird about this, and I can actually go in here and make another drawing, is I have a piece of metal over there, and I went and measured it. And that piece of metal that I measured, if I say hotkey R, and I'm going to go ahead and select construction lines. So I'm just drawing myself a picture that I can go in later on and move these things into. And I know that piece of metal was just over 6.25 inches wide, and it is 16 inches tall. And so I got to see how many of these pieces I can fit into this box to nest this thing. So I'm going to finish that sketch. And then I'm going to just start moving these things in there. So I'm going to hit this. Let's see, hotkey M, and this piece. And then we're going to try to put Control Z. Move this one, and I'll put them right down here at the bottom. Enter. I think I can put this one in. No, I want this key, hotkey M again. And the piece kind of starts as I move up the sheet here, the piece gets thinner and thinner. So we'll see how much I can fit in here. Hotkey M, grab this one. Enter. Can I fit that one in there? Hotkey M. We'll see. Maybe it'll fit. All right. There we go. Okie doke. Cool. Let's go ahead and get this thing ready to cut. So basically, I'm going to have to make 2 separate cut files. I have to make this one as a cut file, and then this will be its own separate cut file. All right, so now I go from computer-aided design, which is in the CAD part of this whole thing, over to manufacturing. Now switches us over to computer-aided manufacturing, or the CAM part. So CAD to CAM. I'm going to do setup, and this is going to be something that they started doing with Fusion 360. I don't know how to fix this. If somebody out there knows how to do this, but I've got to basically go and make a setup, make a cut file, G-code and all that, and then go back and erase my setup and then make another one to do this. So I got to select the models I want because I don't want to cut them all. I want basically these. So for me to get the correct box point, I need just to select those. And then when I go to box point, it'll let me select the one that I want. And I'm going to say, make the name Pitman Arm. Pitman 1. So I got the setup over there. Now I go to cutting. This is kind of the tedious part, which I wish it wouldn't make me go back and do every time, but there's probably a way to make it my default setting. So I go to library. I pick my Razor Weld 45 as a plasma cutter I'm going to use. I say it all the time. I've never killed one. Everyone says get the Hypertherm, but this thing just keeps working. All right, I'm cutting 1/4 inch plate, 55 inches per minute. Will work pretty good. The lead in rate, I usually go slower when I lead in, and then your lead out rate, I like to go fast when I lead out. So I go 65, that's probably good round numbers. I'm gonna go ahead and select all the things I wanted to cut, make a profile for, and then over here, lead in radius, the numbers I've been using are 0.05. I use 90 degrees. 0.2, let's go. I think it'll be okay if we use, I might be able to get away with using 1/4 inch. 0.2 will be fine. And then as far as like where it's gonna lead in, I just wanna have it there, because this is where all the extra material is over here. Let's go right there, and for this one, we're gonna have to do it like, I wonder if I put it, well, this is the tough one here. If I put it right there, no, that's not what I wanted. All right, for the places that we're going to have the thing enter the cut, we'll go right there, and for this one, I'm gonna have to see how it does by entering right there. It might have a problem because it might try to lead in and cut into this one. Let's see what order it cuts and see if it makes a difference at all for this. So I'm gonna say okay, it's building the G-code right now, and you can kind of run the simulation to see how it's gonna cut this thing. I'm gonna hit play, and it's gonna cut that one. Let's just go right down the box here and cut them in a row. So that should work out pretty good. So that as it cuts that one piece, it should drop away, and then it'll do a lead-in cut on the next one. So it shouldn't be a problem. Hopefully it won't. Cool. All right, that looks pretty good. All right, so I'm gonna exit the simulation. I'm gonna go ahead and post this G-code. And I don't want it to go, we're making a train for my little dude. So not his train project there. This is gonna be on lefty. And this will be, make a new folder. Steering. All right, enter, select folder. Now it's going to drop that G-code into there. It has a 0.2 second pierce delay, 1/4 inch, maybe a 0.3, because it's going to take a second for it to burn through. You want it to burn and then you want it to run. So I might just up that a little bit of time there, and I'll post that. Now is when I got to go back and make this other piece. It's just its own individual. I'll just zip through this. It's not really interesting. The big thing here that I found though is that, see, I'm going to go ahead and make a setup, and you'll see that I can't undo that setup, even though I'm going to say select the one that I want. I just want to do this one and then select the box point. It's not going to let me do it because this setup over here is still alive. So I got to basically go in here and say, I'm going to cancel this. So I get rid of that setup, and then I got to go over here and delete this setup. And then when I go hit setup again, now I can say, okay, now I just want this one to cut, and then I can give it a box point. So, and then the problem with that is, two, is when I come over here to cutting, I got to select all this stuff over again. I know it's not that big a deal. It's easier than doing fabrication with a saw or something like that, but it's a little bit inconvenient. So razor weld, what did I pick over here? See if I can hit the same numbers roughly. All right, and then I don't care, that's gonna be close enough. You see where it's gonna cut there, post a G code, let's go into the same box, post that. And now we're ready to go over to the Langmuir Systems Crossfire XR and cut this thing out.